Good morning, grade 12s. Welcome to your last IT class for this week. And then it's long weekend, 3 days of school and another long weekend. So there's something to look forward to. Today will be a little bit more difficult, but I'm confident that you are able to do this because I've already introduced you to the concept of using functions within SQL statements. If you remember, we've done the format function within our select statement to convert something, or to format a field to currency. So we're just going to add a couple of functions. We're going to expand on the format function. There's going to be round, left, right, mid, and so on. We're going to look, we're just going to briefly take you through them and highlight maybe one or two important ones. For exam purposes, I would suggest that you actually learn all of them. If you are familiar with Excel and Excel functions, so the three of you who have CAT with me as well, Simon, Philip and Jet, you have a slight advantage over the others because you've already learned some of these functions within Excel, but it's nothing too complicated. All right, so let's have a look at our textbook. Okay, using functions. So this is exactly the one that we have looked at already. Format, and then what do we want to format? So in this case, they just have a calculation. It's not always necessary to have a calculation. It could just be customer points. But remember that if we want to display something as currency, it has to be of real value. Hence, we cannot just multiply this by 0. Or we can't just multiply this by 2 or so. It has to be a real value. Okay, this one, in this case, they're displaying this field as a new temporary field because customer points, that field exists, but the one with the multiplication does not. So here we have, and that's what we did yesterday, have the keyword as money value. Okay, we not only can format something to currency, we can also format a date of birth to a specific date. So we can, the currency, you can see it's in quotation marks, comma. So we have format, what, comma, to what we want to format it. Here we have format, we have got a date, comma, quotation marks, what we want to format it to. Okay, here's a couple of examples. We converting this to a fixed number. Yes. Then we have, let's just quickly see here. Yeah, this might be interesting for you to know. The width of the columns. We can convert, we can use we can do this in the query as well, but here we simply set the width of the DB grid column 1, 2, 3, and it starts with column 1. And then we can fit all of this in on one page. Okay, then we have the round function. I suppose you know how this works. However, I quickly want to highlight, so everything from 0.5 up rounds up, otherwise down. But what if you have exactly 0.5? That is right smack down in the middle. So it rounds it to the nearest even integer. So 12.5 produces the value 12 because the nearest even integer to 12.5 would be 12. 13.5, however, rounds up because 14 now becomes the nearest even integer. Don't ask me why, just accept it that way. That's how it's done. Okay, and then obviously you're all maths students or advanced math lit students, so you should know how rounding works. So the example that they give here is with food minus cost is the calculation divided by cost times 100 as percentage increase. So they're working out the percentage that it increased. We're rounding it to 2 decimal places. All right. Then we have the int function. The int function literally cuts off the decimal part of the floating point value. So in this case, int 34.12 and int 34.88. So if you would round this, it would round it to 35 and to 34 respectively. However, the int function just cuts it off, similar to trunc, and it produces both 34. Int with food minus cost as percentage increase. Now it simply cuts it off. Then we have the str function, which returns a numeric value in text data format. So similar to what we've done, int to string with the SQL, we just have the string function that converts the numeric value to text. So for example, in this case, we have the pick file size, which is an integer. We convert that to text. Now we can add kilobytes to it and save it as a field called file size. That's integer. Then we have a uCase function, which turns everything into uppercase. Again, uCase owner surname as surname from owner. There you go. Guess what's the next function? Lcase, meaning lowercase. So anything that is an uppercase will now be lowercase. Right, so here they're just adding the genre next to the CD detail and all in lowercase. Then we have a number of text functions that follow: left, right, and len and mid. Now, those are the functions that I refer to when I said my CAT students, you have an advantage because you should know these, or you will know these when we do text functions in Excel. So you're going to work with them much more often. So the left function actually returns a substring that contains a specific number of characters beginning from the left. So in this case, left owner first name, 1 has 1 character from the left. So they have the surname and they have the first name. So the V would be the first letter of the first. So it creates an initial. So here we have surname and initial. That's our temporary field. If I say 2, it will take 2 characters and so on. The right function, you guess it right, I hope so, works from the right hand side. So if I would have the surname, I'm not even going to pronounce that, Donovan, and I say right owner surname, 2, then it will return A and N. 3 would do VAN, etc. Okay, so it's the same, just the opposite of that. Then the len function returns the length of a particular string. So in this case, len cd name 10 equals 2. Len of this cd name 14 shades of gray 17, etc. Then the mid function returns, you have a few more properties. For example, mid title. So which field do you want to look at? What's the starting position? And how many characters? So in this case, you have to specify from which position do you want to start counting the number of characters is the next one. Right. Then we have some year or date functions, year, month, and day. You can see, I mean, you've read through this. Fortunately, this is the last page. Unfortunately, next week we're going to look at aggregate functions like count and sum. But for now, these are plain straightforward functions that we can use. So year, month, and day simply returns the day of a particular date, the month of a particular date, and the year. Yes, you're right. The year of a particular date. So if you have, for example, a birth date in one field, now we can use these functions and store them in separate temporary fields like this and separate them. Why would we want to do that? Who knows? But in this particular instance, but they will be queries that you have to produce where this actually becomes very helpful. For example, calculating the age. You know, you instead of subtracting two dates from each other, it would be much easier to actually subtract the 2 years from each other to get to the age of a person. A little inaccurate, I know, but for example, if you have to do athletics registrations and you have to know whether you're under 17 or under 19, then it is much simpler to just subtract the current year from the birth year to get the age. Okay, there we go. Date value. So, converts a string to a value in the date format. The string is interpreted according to the date format setting of the operating system. So depending on the setting of the date, it now converts a string to a particular date. Sure, that was absolutely a mouthful. So yes, but it concludes, and I want you to complete activity 8. I have written or created the forms for you. So instead of you having to create the forms as it asks you to do, you can actually find them in the data folder on the drive and simply complete the activity 8 for you. Okay, don't forget to remember to like this video, to subscribe to my channel, and leave a positive comment.